Okay, so I think we have pretty much everybody, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon Karpovich, and I'm one of the recruiters at GT. We are really excited to have you participate in our first Empower Professional Development session on building your personal brand. And we invite you, like you did in the welcome session, to participate by sharing your video, asking questions throughout by coming off mute, raising your hand, typing in the chat box. We're also going to be recording today's session. So right now, I am going to actually kick it over to Amanda for introduction. So Amanda, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Shannon. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda McCarty, and I am an audit partner and also the office managing partner of our Silicon Valley office here in the Bay Area. So excited to be here with all of you today. I've been with Grant Thornton for about 15 years out of my nearly 20-year career, and very excited to talk to you about branding and networking and interviewing and all that good stuff. So I'm going to kick it over to Alex to introduce himself.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. And yeah, hello, my name is Alex Gramajo, and I'm a senior manager here at Grant Thornton, and I'm in the Boston office. I primarily focus on leading teams through our audit services. And as I approach my 14th year here at Grant Thornton, it's hard to say that out loud. I also am involved with the growth strategy initiatives in Boston, a local lead for the Latinx Business Resource Group and cohort, and I like to be involved with recruiting and mentorship in our office. So, likewise, I'm very excited to chat with you all and brainstorm and talk through some of these topics today. So I can turn it over to Lindsay next.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. Well, I'm excited to be here with everyone today. My name is Lindsay Miller. I'm a tax senior manager. I'm based in our Orange County, California office, and have also been with the firm. I'm going on 13 years, also hard to say, not really sure where the time has gone. I started my career with GT doing the summer leadership program and the internship, and have been full-time ever since. So I've really gone through the whole recruiting cycle, and I'm passionate about helping out because of that. And I focus on tax and helping our clients with tax technology. So I'm a member of what we call our tax digital consulting group. And with that, I'll turn it over to Baron.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Baron Ford. I feel like I am the newbie to the group since I've only been here for 6 years. With that being said, I am an experienced manager based out of our Atlanta office. I am a part of our advisory team with my primary focus being in healthcare, and in particular, the IT side of healthcare. So I do a lot of IT work as well as rev cycle work. So I kind of go back and forth between the two, just depending on what our clients actually need. I am also one of our local champions for the AABRG in the Atlanta office, and am heavily involved with university recruiting. I'm heavily involved with NABA as well as a lot of the recruiting activities that goes on within the firm. I also have my hands deeply involved with a lot of our DE&I efforts here at GT. With that being said, I want to welcome all of you to the Empower program. I'm looking forward to having this inaugural year just being a jump start into something that's going to be fabulous, not only for you, but also for the firm as well. And so if we want to move on to the next slide, I will also cover the agenda today. So we're going to be talking about what is personal brand as our first topic, and then we'll be moving on into networking. We'll have an elevator pitch activity, and then we'll end up this session with some interviewing techniques and skills. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into personal brand and what that is. So when you think about what is a personal brand, we really have personal brand is just something that I like to say, how do people perceive you? What are your peers think about you when they hear your name? And so what it really is just, it's a perception or an emotion that someone else may have about you other than yourself that really just kind of describes that relationship that they feel or that they have when they hear your name or when somebody mentions your name. And then you want to go into what is personal branding. So personal branding is really, it's almost like, just think about it as being the verb of branding yourself. Uh, what do you want others to think of you when they hear your name, or when others think about you? What are you bringing to the table? So this whole what is personal branding is really just the ability to identify your skill sets, the process by which how you're going to differentiate yourselves from others, so that when your peers, maybe your teachers, whomever, when they see your name or hear your name, it's just the proposition or what they associate with you. So you see the definition we have here is just a process by which individuals differentiate themselves by identifying and articulating their unique value proposition, and then just leveraging it across the various platforms. So with that being said, we do want to keep this, interactive. But I have a question: does anyone feel that they've established, a personal brand already, whether it's at school or maybe in your social networks or whatever it might be? Um, do we have anybody that might have a comment or a thought on that? And if not, that's quite all right, because I know prior to coming to GT, I had never really given it much thought. But being here at Grant Thornton, it is something that we do take seriously, and it's something that we really harp on. And it's very important that you establish yourself and establish your brand so that others know who you are and know what you're bringing to the table, especially if you're working in a team environment. We all like to know, what can this person do for the team, and how can we benefit them and how can they benefit us? So building your personal brand, it really is a cyclical process, where you see here we have step one is just discovering your personal brand. Step two is developing your brand. And then step three is communicating your brand. So thinking about that step one, which I'm sure a lot of you might be in this phase right now, just discovering your brand, you really have to reflect on, your goals and passions and what your expertise is, um, and identifying your brand. What do you want others to think? Like when someone says Baron Ford, what are they going to think? Are they going to think that, okay, he's just somebody working in healthcare, or are they going to think, Baron, great at he's great at rev cycle. He can really help clients identify maybe like some lost revenue gaps in their processes, but he also has an IT capability where he can come in and talk with clients about their IT strategy, their IT solutions, and where they might have gaps in their processes, and can really tie all of this into what this client is trying to do from a strategy standpoint. So that's how, we think of Baron. And that's what you really want to do when you're really trying to identify or discover your personal brand. And another thing that you can do is really just seek questions, ask questions of other people, see what others are thinking about you, because perception really is reality. You might think your brand is one thing and you might think you're doing all of these different things, but other people might be perceiving you totally different, and if that's not the perception you want, then those are some areas that you could take to heart and really focus in on that to really develop that brand and have it be what you really want it to be. Number two is when we're developing your brand. This is going to focus, a lot of this will come up during some of the later activities that you will be focusing on today. But really, this is just identifying your audience, and you really want to be able to in your situation now, a lot of it's going to be, it may be your professors, it could be your peers, it may be some companies that you're working for if you're currently working. It also might be like your potential employers, companies that you would like to work for in the future. You really want to have your brand established so that when you're meeting with these people or talking with these people, you can articulate it in a way that is clear, a way that makes sense, and a way that really represents you and who you are. And then finally, we want to be able to communicate that brand. Whether it's written or verbal, you really just have to communicate it. State what your brand is. What can you bring to the table? What is your value proposition? How can you make a difference with them? And I think that will take you a long way. And your interactions and the communications you have with your peers, with your future employer, this is all like really a direct reflection of you and your brand. So that's why it's key to really hone in on that and make sure that your brand is representative of who you are and who you say that you are. And I think, and I kind of gave into my brand when I did my introduction, because I know when I first started here at Grant Thornton, my PPMD or my partner principal asked me what was my brand, and that was my first time ever hearing it. So I really didn't know what to say about that, but it is something that don't expect it to just happen overnight. It is something that you will work on to develop, and it could take years to really get your brand down, because you may go through iterations of it and you may realize going through that, wow, I really thought my personal brand was A, but I found out along the way that I'm really very good at this, and this is what I really bring to the table. And so, it can change. You don't be afraid to allow yourself to change. Um, and so I think that, like I said earlier, my brand is really twofold. One is client facing. So when I think about myself going out to work for my clients, I know that I'm strong on the IT side. I know that um, I bring a strong acumen on the revenue cycle side. I have the ability to talk with clients on an IT perspective, but talk to them in a way to where a non-IT person can understand exactly what we're meaning when we say certain things. I'm able to communicate in a way that effectively tells them, okay, by doing this in this system, this is how it's going to impact your revenue cycle side from a financial perspective this way. And baby steps and baby work, it's going to save you $30 million. And that's really all they care about. They want to know that you're going to do this for them. The value proposition you're bringing in is going to help them achieve this. And so that's like really my brand on the, like I said, the client facing side, but then also internally at GT, I feel like I have a brand there. I'm known inside of our DE&I space. I do a lot of work with our recruiting. I do a lot of interviewing from a diversity perspective. I've also sat on numerous panels representing GT in DE&I efforts. I've actually taught a couple of classes, one at Howard University for a couple of our DEI initiatives. I recruit annually at NABA. I do a lot of things internally to really help us push our DE&I efforts along. And so, you know, you also want to think about what am I doing, not just for my clients and the people that I'm working with, but what am I doing internally to maybe help our business along? And so that's why I say that, my brand was really twofold, one from a client facing and then one from an internal facing perspective. And with that being said, I think we would now move on into our next topic on the agenda, which is networking.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Baron. So now that we really have a good handle on our personal brand and some of the ways that we can develop that and communicate that to others, what we're going to talk about next is networking. So how do you showcase your personal brand once you've gone through those efforts that Baron laid out to really develop and establish it? And so we're going to talk next about networking and how you can get your network started if you haven't already. So what is networking? The definition here is the process of building and cultivating relations. And there's a Forbes quote here that says, your network is really your net worth. You can have multiple degrees and great talents, but if people don't know that you exist, then those degrees and those talents, those won't get you very far. And I think this is a really, really interesting quote because it's so true in the business world. And so when you think about networking, a few things that we wanted to highlight here. So it's not just about making a connection, but also about maintaining a connection. And one thing that I've been really surprised by throughout my career is how simple that can be. I think early on, I thought that maintaining connections would be a lot of work. Really, really big endeavors to kind of maintain those connections. But what I've learned is that sometimes really small things can make a big difference. You know, sending someone a note on LinkedIn when you get a reminder that it's their birthday can mean a lot and just be a small way to keep the relationship fresh and kind of keep you top of mind with someone. When you see someone after a period of time, asking them a personal anecdote. So maybe if you remember their kids' names, that really means a lot to a lot of people. So asking about their children or that vacation they took or that puppy they adopted during COVID, but something personal that really, really makes them realize you were listening and you cared about that last conversation you had. A thank you note, a thank you note, a thank you email. You know, these sometimes seem like really simple tasks, but I think we take for granted that not everyone has that follow through. And so when you're disciplined about having that follow through or having even the smallest little touch point, you're likely going to be doing more than others. And so you're going to stay top of mind with people, and it'll allow you to really not only maintain that relationship, but show some consistency and authenticity as you develop it. Another thing we wanted to touch on about networking is don't wait until you graduate to build your network. So you can start now while you're taking classes, while you're recruiting. All these activities are really opportunities to start to develop your network and to test out your personal brand that we talked about earlier and start to use that in different scenarios and get comfortable with that. So as you're going to school, one thing that I heard, which I didn't believe at the time, is that many of the people in my classroom were people I should network with because one day they would be my clients or, you know, CFOs. And I totally believed it. It just seemed so far in the future that it was really hard to wrap my head around. And you guys may be thinking that as well as I say that. But I will truly tell you that some of my close friends from college have actually ended up being clients of the firm. And networking contacts. And that's been really fun and an interesting shift to see happen. It does take time. They're probably not going to be a CFO right away, but they may be a client in the future. And what's more fun than doing business with people that you're friends with and have personal relationships with? And so I think that one has really been true in my life. And I hope that as you guys look around the classroom, you experience something similar. And don't limit yourself to only networking with certain groups or organizations. Network with everyone. Networking can be spontaneous. The way I really view it is curiosity of getting to know another person. So it could be someone you're just, you know, standing in line next to or riding public transit with, and you can strike up just a friendly conversation, and sometimes that can even lead to a networking opportunity. It doesn't have to, and you don't have to force it. I wouldn't hand out my business card to every single person I meet. But when you have that genuine curiosity of getting to know people, sometimes networking happens in unexpected places. So as we transition to the next slide here, why should you care about networking? I'm going to start with this box on the top right first of being a resource for others. Because I think when you start by framing networking in that way, it may change the way you view all these other boxes. Because although networking can be a positive and a way for you to accomplish all of these things that are in the boxes, it can also be a way for you to help others. And I really believe networking should be a two-way street. Mentoring, I think we often think of as maybe more of a one-way street, where someone more experienced or more seasoned is really focused on your personal development and your growth and helping you get somewhere. But networking is often really more of a two-way street of helping other people. And so you can use networking to help yourself and others get job opportunities. You can use networking to help share advice and support and ideas for yourself and others, to gain industry knowledge and to share your own industry knowledge, to strengthen existing relationships or share those relationships where you can perhaps connect the dots and build a bridge for your personal development or the personal development of others. And again, to raise your profile or to raise the profile of others. One thing we talk about at Grant Thornton on this last one is stewardship and really helping others. So maybe it's as simple as you're involved in a committee or a board or an organization and introducing someone junior to you who may be interested to that same group and allowing them to get introduced to networking opportunities that you've had the benefit of in the past. But at the end of the day, networking is about building long-term relationships and a good reputation over time. And so as we transition to this slide, how do you get started? We've talked about what networking is, some of the benefits of it. So as we think about how to get started, this box shows people who know others, people you know, and people you don't know. So really start with your inner circle where you're most comfortable, especially when you're early on and this is new for you. So classmates. College alumni. I love this one because I'm very engaged with my college and have built a lot of strong relationships through the alumni there. Extended family, professors and advisors, parents, friends. You know, there's a lot of different folks you can meet, members of clubs or organizations. I think for that, find something you're authentically, genuinely interested in, and then that commonality will breed stronger relationships. I've found that when I'm really passionate about something, I get more from my networking because I'm more invested in the common goal rather than, say, just showing up to a networking event where I don't know anyone. But if I'm able to roll up my sleeves side by side on a committee or in an organization with other like-minded people, then I find there to be a lot of really, really powerful networking. And expand the number of people who you know. So the people you know at the bottom slice of this pie here, expand that by being visible. So maybe that's on LinkedIn, maybe that's asking for introductions to other individuals, maybe it's seeking out mentorship opportunities. Maybe your school or other organizations offer those types of opportunities, which can all help you get started. And then as we move to the next slide, it's never too early to begin networking. So networking early in your college career will allow you to connect with professionals who may be helpful at the time when you start to look for jobs and start to look for full-time opportunities. So take advantage of the resources on campus. A lot of campuses have career centers, which have great resources right at your fingertips. And you don't always have those once you graduate. So make the most of them while you can. Of course, LinkedIn is a valuable tool to connect with potential employers. So definitely utilize that. And for firms here, this middle box, what I would highlight is continue to network with firms, build relationships with folks you meet at all the firms you talk to, and continue to maintain those relationships throughout your career. You never know, most communities, the public accounting industry is small. Build those relationships. If you really had a great relationship with someone, continue to develop that, even if perhaps they work in a different office or service line than you ultimately go into in your career. All right, and then the stages of networking. So before, do your research, update your resume, dress accordingly. During, set goals for yourself, work the room, deliver the elevator pitch, and make a great impression. And after, reflect on key points from your conversation and personalize your follow-up. And as I mentioned earlier, I think that the follow-up and follow-through can really be a huge differentiator for you as you move through networking and building those relationships. And follow up consistently. So make an effort to check in, once a quarter, once every 6 months, once a year, depending on the type of relationships that you've built. As we move along, work the room. So I know that we're in a virtual environment and that is not ideal right now, but it seems, I'm very optimistic that we're maybe on the tail end of that. But I heard something great recently that from someone who's not at GT and starting to get out in person, and they said that 5 Zoom meetings was kind of the equivalent of 1 face-to-face meeting. But once they met that individual in person, it felt like 6 face-to-face meetings, because everything really fell into place once they had laid the groundwork over Zoom, but once they met face-to-face, they really had a strong connection. And I thought that was fascinating to hear. So even though Zoom is not ideal and can be challenging, know that you're really laying the groundwork and be intentional about getting that face time once you're able and it's safe, because I think then you'll really see exponential dividends on those relationships you started building virtually. So when you are working the room virtually or in person, introduce yourself, use pauses to jump into the conversation. As we've talked about, be curious, learn about others in the group, be authentically engaged and interested in those you're getting to know, and where possible, find common ground, current events, open-ended questions, deliver your elevator pitch that we're about to dive into, and follow up. All right, with that, I will turn it over.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate that. So yeah, you've all heard, a few times now this elevator pitch, and you probably heard it at school as well. So just to recap, it's a short summary that really allows you to explain who you are, what you do, and what you're looking for. And obviously, the genesis of the term comes from the fact that it sometimes has to be delivered in a pretty quick time frame, so it should be short and concise. And really what makes it so useful is that it allows you to sort of draw out what's unique about you, and it kind of pulls together these things that we just talked about. What is your brand? And in a situation where you're networking, how do you get that across pretty quickly? So it's really about the articulation of what you want to convey in that short, perhaps, interaction. And that becomes real valuable to sort of the next stage, which will be sort of the interview piece, where again, someone's going to just sit there and say, so tell me about yourself. And so what are the things you want to get across in that first interaction? What do you want to summarize? What do you want to share? So it's a real good opportunity to do that. And we'll take a few minutes, during this kind of call here to let you practice that as well, or at least just start to brainstorm. And just it can be a little bit daunting at first, but if you step back, it's just a chance for you to sort of organize your thoughts about yourself. Again, put all those other pieces to practice, and then you can work on polishing how you're delivering that, and that's really where you start to refine that part of the process of the elevator pitch. So on the next slide here, we're talking about these 3 kind of characteristics. I think really what you want to think about here is that depending on your audience, you're going to want to tailor what you're trying to get across. So also, it's going to evolve over time, right? So if you're currently in school, your work experience may not be so elaborate. Well, that's okay. What are the things that you're involved with in school that kind of help you stand out? Is it you part captain of a soccer team, or doing like some other, you're leading this group of, business fraternity, for example, or what are you involved with? What do you do for the community, right? Are you working jobs while taking classes, while doing these other things? What makes you sort of unique? What's your story? And one of the other things you want to think about is, okay, in this short interaction, what's my objective and how do you get that across? Because sometimes, you're explaining sort of what you do, and that's great, and who you are. But what you want to really convey to them is, I'm really interested about learning more about internships or about job opportunities, or I'm really interested in joining a board of a community program where I can get more involved that way. Getting that across can help spark interest for a listening party to say, oh, we have internships, or that's interesting. I know someone who may have an opening here and there. So again, it's an opportunity to combine these things. Who am I? what you really do and what your objective is. So what I may do is just pause for a second and let you kind of just think about this a little bit. So on the next slide, we have a little, brainstorming activity, which we'll do right here. And while you sit here, go ahead and jot down a couple items. Really just some things to think about what you'd want to highlight, for example. So again, what do you want others to know about you? What makes you kind of unique or special? So again, what are the things that make you stand out? Do you have unique skills that you might want to convey in this particular situation? And then how do you really draw that curiosity so that there's follow-up questions, right, that may trigger from your quick interaction? And so maybe just go ahead and do that for a little bit. I'll just give an example as you all are writing down or taking some thoughts down here. I was playing golf with some people and met a random person who got paired up with us and mentioned, he's like, okay, what do you do? And so I could get into a very specific niche of what I do, but broadly I was like, I work for Grant Thornton. We provide audit, tax, and advisory services, across a dynamic group of companies. And he said, okay, he heard tax. I don't do tax. I mostly primarily work in audit, but it sparked an interest. And he said, hey, you know what? I'm a CFO of a company and I'm working on some state and local whatever it was, right? I said, oh yeah, you know what? I know a couple people who I work with quite a bit in that space. And if you're just curious about something, like we're happy to just get on a call and chat with you a bit. Super easy, probably 30 seconds. And we went on to playing. At the end of the round though, he's like, yeah, actually I'll take you up on that. And we got a call going and whatever. So fine. But I had a quick 30-second hit with him and it turned into something that worked out. So that's great. That's a positive. Sometimes I'll be like, cool, I don't care. And that's fine too. But it's important that I just laid a broad kind of foundation. He had follow-up questions later, and then I got into more nuanced pieces. So hopefully you got some, just again, thinking about what you're involved with, got a list of some items. We're going to go ahead and break out into a different group here, these little breakout rooms where you're going to get to, again, practice. Do not worry about being polished and having it rehearsed and all that. That's not what we're after. It's just for you to start putting those bullets that you took down together in some sort of cohesive thought of, okay, well, who am I? What am I trying to get across? So I think we're ready for that now, right, Shannon?
Yes, exactly. So everybody should have received an individual breakout link in their agenda. So you can go ahead and drop this meeting and join that individual breakout link. If you have any issues at all, then just come back into this main session. I'll be here and can help direct you. But otherwise, we will reconvene in about 15 minutes. So about 3:20 p.m. Eastern time, everybody will join this session, this main session again. So we can go ahead and drop it into our breakout rooms. We'll see you soon.
All right, great.
All right. Are there any students in here who need help navigating to their breakout rooms?